And welcome to MGoRadio. This is what, 11.2? That's how we decided to count them.
I
I'm
think so, yeah.
I'm Seth Fisher along with Alex Strain. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to especially Underground Printing for making it possible. Stop by and pick up some gear. Check them out at ugpmichiganapparel.com or check out our selection of shirts on the mgoblogstore.com, including this Mr. Brightside shirt I just got. Um, Let's not forget our associate sponsors, Peak Wealth Management, Matt Demarest, Realtor and Lender, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Michigan Law Grad, Human Element, Sharon's Heating and Air Conditioning, the Sklar Brothers, Winewood Organics, Community Pet Solutions, Radicke Oral Surgery, Long Road Distillers, and Signalwire, where we are broadcasting from right now. Alex, I didn't realize there's no other good games this week. So, this is it. Everyone's gonna be staring at us. So we're going to wait for Brian to talk about Bryce Underwood, which is, I'm sure, why everybody showed up this morning. But we do have an Oklahoma game to talk about. And we've been trying to learn these guys all off season, and we were kind of talking about they're basically just like a Spider-Man pointing team, right?
A lot of similar stories. Yeah, two teams last year that were strong defensively and very weak offensively, but they went different routes to fix it. Michigan got the number one high school quarterback, and Oklahoma got the number one portal quarterback. So it's going to be an interesting showdown in that way.
Would you take, after the first week, would you take John Mateer over Bryce Underwood?
For this year,
Yeah, just this year.
I'm going to punt it and say let's watch both play an FBS team.
No, just the fact that there was like a pause there, man. Like you did not like just answer right away. A week ago, would you have answered right away?
Probably yes.
Yeah. So Mateer's an interesting dude. I think we should start with him. Transferred from Washington State. Only got to play there 1 year because he was backing up the first overall pick. But he's kind of a Tate Forcier more than just I don't know if he was going to be drafted as highly. He's just a wild man, makes things happen, pretty accurate, likes to throw on the move, can get out of some, can run a little bit, and we'll talk about Ben Arbaugh's offense because he brought along his offensive coordinator too. But what did you see in the first week from Mateer in this Oklahoma offense?
Well, it was a good showing from him overall. It wasn't against a high quality of competition. They played Illinois State, who is an FCS program. They were 9-4 last year. They play in the Missouri Valley, so they do play the best teams in FCS.
Yeah, I've been to an
But
Illinois State game actually.
oh wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
back in college, my fraternity decided to visit Illinois State, and it was Halloween. It ended up being a wild night, and then I hungoverly followed a bunch of sorority girls that I'd met the night before to the football game because that was the direction everyone was going.
Yeah, they're not like an elite FCS program. They've been about 500 over the past 5 seasons, so it's not North Dakota State. We should put that as context.
Uh huh.
And they really struggled defending the middle of the field, linebacker coverage, safety coverage, and so that's pretty much where Mateer did all of his work. That and sort of checkdowns. I mean, he throws a lot of screens too. That's part of the offense, but it was fairly easy for him in week one and came out well in the downfield success rate, completion percentage, all that stuff. But I don't really know how much we can learn about that. You definitely see the ability to run, throw on the move. That's all definitely in there. And there are some moments where the accuracy definitely wavers. He threw behind his receiver on one pass and it was an interception. Had a couple bad reads in there, but overall it was pretty clean. I think the body of work suggests he's a good college quarterback of some kind, but we don't know necessarily how good because in 13 games started, he's played only 3 teams that are power conference, either currently or formerly in the case of Oregon State. And he's played 2 FCS teams, then 8 Mountain West teams. So it's a pretty incomplete sample. And of the power conference teams he played, you have Oregon State, you have Washington, you have Texas Tech. Not really anything super comparable to Michigan in terms of talent and complexity of the defense. And so it's a little bit of a mystery going into tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan fans are not the ones who got to see it, but Washington last year did have a lot of pass problems with their secondary. So, obviously we were in no position to take advantage of it when we went to Washington. Um, but like, it's not like they faced even good Power Five or Power Four or whatever they were last year defenses. And yeah, you're right. Like Washington State was in the Mountain West essentially last year, and so
Yep. That,
that's what I saw when I was doing the write up for Hail of the Victors is that they would bring a guy down and he had Williams outside, his NFL receiver, and whenever he got single coverage, that's where they got a lot of their yards. And when that could be taken away, when you could actually guard, one of their players man on man, um, he kind of was just like a 500 quarterback. And so I wonder how much. This is what I really wonder. Ben Arbuckle, their 29-year-old offensive coordinator, which is older than you, I take it, right?
yeah, but I mean, probably the first time that a coordinator has been closer in age than me to Michigan's quarterback. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah, man, you should meet my daughter's new band teacher we met yesterday. He was telling us about um his video game proficiency, and I was like, dude. Anyway, Ben Arbuckle is older than the band teacher, but not older than most offensive coordinators. And the reason why he rose up so quickly through the ranks is he is a master at RPOs. He just finds where he looks at any defense, can find where you're over leveraged, and gives his quarterbacks those easy reads, and they'll just pick at something all day because what are you going to do if that's how your defense works? I'm very interested to see how it works against Michigan because Michigan's whole thing, right, is we're going to try to confuse you. And that was built to stop very different quarterbacks, right? So it might work for a lot of underneath stuff. But I'm imagining it's probably going to be more, picking away underneath. He's not going to want to throw deep very much. He's trying to get advantaged reads, and there's not going to be a whole lot of things to read in Michigan's defense.
Yeah, the interesting thing you mentioned there with the deep stuff, that was something that came up in your scouting report last year. If you watch the material highlights at Wazoo, that comes up, but it didn't come up in this first game. There was a couple throws deep. They weren't really accurate. The guys weren't really open. I don't know if they have the personnel to take the same deep shots that they took at Washington State. Washington State had a really good receiver last year, and less clear if they have that at Oklahoma.
Yeah, so the three guys they really play, they have a couple other players that come off the bench, but Deion Burks is the one you put a star on. He played for Purdue, kind of a slot receiver playing outside. Is there any more to Deion Burks than we remember?
Not really. He was a danger man almost by default because they've got a clown car situation going on at running back, which we'll get to. They have pretty weak tight ends. So you're just kind of looking at receivers. And he was the one I knew the most about because their other two receivers are both transfers. One from the FCS, that's Keontez Lewis, and then the other one, Isaiah Satania from Arkansas, where he didn't play like a crazy amount or what. There just wasn't really an established star here. And at least Deion Burks, we've seen him. We remember him at Purdue. He played in the Big House against us in 2023, and he was Purdue's leading receiver that year. He was the leading wide receiver on this team last year, despite missing half the season, which tells you about what you need to know about the existing wide receiver room at Oklahoma. Solid player. He's going to get some carries on jet sweeps. Purdue lined him up in the backfield at points in the past, too, so they can do different things with him. He had a really nice one-handed catch in the game against Illinois State, so something to note. Otherwise, he's solid. He's not, maybe if he blows up, he'll get drafted, but not a guy necessarily that's really like high on top 100 draft boards or anything.
Well, he's a Belleville kid, but he went to Belleville so long ago that he never played with Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, there was no overlap. They're 4 years apart. He's a fifth-year senior now. So when he was a senior at Belleville, Bryce was in 8th grade. But he's been talking a big game. I don't know if you've seen the quotes about this is a revenge week for him and how he was slighted that Michigan didn't recruit him and blah, blah, blah. So that was part of the reason he was the danger man label.
You're 5'9", 188 as a senior. You wanted to be in this offense? Could you imagine, like what would you have done? AJ Henning didn't get anything. I mean, think of all the guys who've come through. He would have been, in the Giles Jackson class?
Yeah. No, he would have been a little bit younger, but yes. The other thing was he wasn't like a super high recruit either. He was like a pretty generic 3-star. And Michigan, remember, reached out to him when he was in the portal after he left Purdue, and he chose Oklahoma. So
Well, he was a
Feels
receiver
like
with a
it's
pulse, so
yeah.
yeah. We actually
Feels like it's on him.
yeah, we recruited their other slot receiver too. I remember Isaiah Satania. He was I can't believe I remember this from writing a recruiting report however many years ago, but he's like the son of the track coach at Arkansas. So there's this track coach that's kind of moved around to every single SEC team, and I think Michigan was talking to the track coach at the time as well, and they were going to try to get the son to come as well. I don't know anything about Keontez Lewis or
He actually had a
the other guys.
decent game against Illinois State, but
Okay.
at the same time, that's his level of competition, right? Like he came from the
Right.
FCS, playing an FCS team. So ask again later on him. And Satania really didn't do anything in that first game. And really, it seems like those are the three guys, that there was a lot of rotation at other positions on this team in the first game. There really wasn't a wide receiver. So it seems like those are the three dudes. And none of them really terrify me.
Which is interesting. They've got a very highly recruited. I think he's a true sophomore, Ivan Carrion. Carrion. He's a 6'6", 220. I mean, that paints a picture, right? 6'6", 224. And the fact that he hasn't really emerged. When I was talking to some Oklahoma guys, I asked them about him too, and they're just like, yeah, light hasn't really gone on for him yet. They're hoping, to bring him along this year and just kind of work him into the offense. And looking at an offense that has a bunch of short guys and an FCS receiver, you'd think if he was going to be available, he would have done something last week.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
certainly think so. The other guy that we should talk about just from a pass catching standpoint is Jaron Kanik.
Kanik, yeah.
Kanik, yeah. He's a converted linebacker, got good speed down the seam. Not really there as a blocker, but he's also not like a big guy. He's 233. So that's where you'd kind of expect their other tight ends who are in the high 240s, Carson Kenton, Will Huggins, to be more of the blockers. Problem is they can't block, and
Right.
neither really can Kanik, and that was a big issue on the ground in the game against Illinois State. They couldn't really run the ball at all, which we'll get to more with the OL and the running backs, but tight end blocking was just as big of an issue, and there were definitely quite a few rushing plays that fell apart just because the tight end couldn't hold up at all, and that's definitely something I'm looking for in this game, or looking at rather.
Yeah, Kanik is the one thing. He ran a 10.2 on a 100-meter in high school. I think it was as a junior, and he was 210 at that point. So he's a converted linebacker, but was kind of a safety-ish linebacker to begin with too. And if you want to picture that, he's not a blocker at all. He's a younger version of Marlon Klein, maybe. We're just like a fast runner. He's just going to run straight down the field. But Michigan sometimes will put TJ Guy in a position where he's on a tight end like that. And Wink, please do not do that this week. Please just use Mason Curtis on this guy and wipe him out. But yeah, we should get to that run game because how many yards per carry do they have against FCS?
It was like 3 roughly, maybe a shade over 3. It wasn't good.
So part of that was like they had a couple offensive linemen out, and let's do the offensive line first, and then we'll finish this segment on the running backs because that gets a little. I'm a little bouncy on that one, but yeah. So I heard from the Oklahoma guys that the 2 tackles who were out were just precautionary. One of them had like just like a freak little thing that they wanted to give him an extra couple days, and it turned out to be nothing. The other one had a concussion midway through fall camp, and they could have had him last week, but last week would have been the 3rd week. So give him one more week. You don't really need him. Try out your other guys. But so that's Derek Simmons. He should be back at right tackle. Michael Fasusi is the true freshman, kind of an Andrew Babalola type of prospect. Freaky long arms, going to be in the top of the draft one day, but true freshman playing his first game. And those are going to be the tackles. They do have. They had another tackle who was supposed to help this year, Jacob Sexton, but he's actually injured. So I think those guys are solid. We had them kind of questionable in your faux film. What happened on the inside, though? Because that's where they were going to have a lot of returning starts and the 2 fifth-year seniors, and that was supposed to be where they were going to be moving the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the interior is where the 2 starters that will likely play against Michigan did play in Troy Everett, the center, and Febechi Wiwu, who was playing right guard at first, and then he moved over to left. Will probably play in this game because Heath Ozida didn't play and probably won't maybe in this game. And if he doesn't, then Michael Foje, another true freshman, might have to start. And they don't want two true freshmen on the same side of the line. So not sure exactly what's going on with that. But Wee and Everett just, they didn't really do a lot. Like, they had trouble getting past the defensive line, and the linebackers for Illinois State did a good job with their run fits. And there wasn't a ton of like majorly blown protections or anything. The issues were more on the ground than in the pass game, but there just wasn't a lot of like push up front. There weren't a lot of running lanes being opened by those guys. And even though it's not the same line that will play Michigan, more than likely, I'm not sure the line that will play Michigan is going to be a ton better, because your replacements are FCS transfers in the case of Derek Simmons, and then the true freshman that we mentioned.
Yeah.
And so it just seems really unsettled. We should also mention Logan Howland, the right tackle. He'll probably sit behind Simmons, but he did play that whole first game. He could play potentially if you needed him to. Sexton actually started the Illinois State game, then he got hurt after 6 plays. As you mentioned, that one sounds more legit. So if Ozaida is out, there is certainly the possibility there will be 2 true freshmen on this line, and possibly an FCS transfer as the third player on this line. So Michigan should take advantage of this. If they can't take advantage of this, it's going to be pretty disappointing.
Yeah, Troy Everett was actually probably the one who was most disappointing, because they were talking him up, and he's kind of a Crippen situation where smart guy, been playing forever, transferred from Appalachian State a few years ago, and fit in right away, learned all the offense, and was much better than any other offensive lineman they had. They had a terrible offensive line last year, but just hasn't gotten strong enough. He's still 315. He's been working at that forever, and like, the fact that it didn't work against FCS competition, now you got Damon Payne and Rashawn Benny, and this is going to be a whole. And that's what I love about this matchup, is that we got 5th-year seniors going up against these true freshmen, and then the one guy who knows what he's doing in the middle of that offense actually got pulled, I think, in the middle of that game for the transfer center, who didn't really know what he was doing either. And you can't really play the transfer in the middle of 2 true freshmen.
Yeah, They rotated quite a bit more. I mean, there was Eddie Pierre-Louis who was rotating in. There was a third-string tackle from Stanford who was rotating in. There were a lot of bodies. It was shifting each drive, and really none of it made any difference. It was just kind of the same thing all day. They couldn't really run the ball at all. A lot of it was the blocking, but I was also uninspired by the running backs too, and that has to be discussed as well.
Yes. All right, so here's where I wanted to ask you a question. What would be the thing that like an opposing fan could tell you about Michigan that you would be like, yes, we've been complaining about this for years?
I mean, I feel like on offense it'd be like play action, right?
Yeah.
Like we never do any play action as one of our big ones until this past week. So
that's what happened that's what happened to me on the podcast when I went on with those Oklahoma guys. By the way, go listen to their podcast. Those guys are amazing. The Just Okay podcast, or Just Okay Sports. Great dudes. Anyway, I started mentioning, like, hey, we were kind of looking at their running backs this offseason, and we're like, what are you guys doing? Why don't you just play Xavier Robinson? Xavier Robinson is like their Mullings, right? He's big. He's been around forever. He's he's got great feet. He's actually the best receiver out of the backfield. Doesn't have breakaway speed. And for some reason, they've been sticking with Javante Barnes as their starter. Taylor Tatum's out with an injury, but like even when they had him, he didn't know what direction to go, and he was fumbling last year. They wasted Gavin Sawchuk, who was another guy that Michigan was recruiting forever. And then this spring, they went out and got Jaden Ott, who was the top running back left in the portal in the spring from Cal, who didn't play last year very much, but had a pretty strong 2023 season for Cal. And they're still messing around with this instead of just playing Xavier Robinson.
Yeah, the Ott situation is very strange. He had an injury in fall camp that kept him out for some amount of time. And at the time I was writing the enemy ranked running back, it sounded fine. So I wrote quite a bit about Ott in that one. And then I guess because of the injury, he tumbled down the depth chart, and then people weren't sure his status going into week 1, but he was clearly healthy-ish because he was on kickoff return and he ran a couple of kickoffs back. Yet he didn't get a carry in the game until the third quarter, and he got 1 carry in total. It was a TFL, not related to him. I think he got like one reception maybe. He played that one series, and then he was back on the bench. And as soon as the game was done during the week when Venables was on radio shows and stuff, he was being badgered by all these people being like, what's going on with Jaden Ott? What was that all about? And he's claiming that Ott is feeling better and he'll have a bigger role against Michigan, but that's just really weird, especially with how much they paid to get him. And the fact that the bar in front of him isn't that high. Javante Barnes, as you mentioned, is really just a guy. Didn't impress me at all. I liked their true freshman running back a little bit better, Torrey Blaylock, who they got in the most recent class. Not like a super recruit or anything, not like Taylor Tatum level recruit. He's injured, it appears. He also had fumble problems last year. So if you're going with Barnes and Blaylock, that's not a really high bar to clear for Ott or Xavier Robinson, who is kind of the moose back guy. He got a few carries in the second half of the game, but doesn't appear he'll be at the forefront of the rushing attack. And so if the plan is for it to be Barnes and Blaylock, I'm not scared of that at all. Yeah. They didn't really show a ton in the way of making guys miss. They missed some cuts, ran into their own blockers on some occasion. Doesn't really forecast to be a running situation that's going to grind out more yards than is given and or hit a big play or anything like that. If those are the guys they're going with. Yeah,
and the last piece here is they don't pass block very well at all. Well, Xavier Robinson can, but Barnes has kind of had that problem his whole career. Ott, that was kind of the knock on him at Cal. It's like, you have to get him out of the backfield and take somebody away because, you can't have him block. And, missing Jayshawn Barham in the first half for this game is going to be meaningful because that's kind of the way, when I talk to the Oklahoma guys, they're like, that's the way you attack us, right? If you have a really good blitzer, we have no way to pick it up. We've got these true freshman guards. We've got, undersized and understrength, Troy Everett at center, and the running backs can't really help, and the tight ends can't really help. So there's just no way to handle blitzing, and that's kind of what I thought Michigan would do with this offense is, go back to the Alabama plan, right? Blitz the quarterback, make him throw bad reads, and see if you can get Mateer to make some mistakes and get you some interceptions and set Michigan up in some nice field position because it's going to be a grind against that defense.
Yeah, more than likely. I will also note on the just Arbuckle point, they ran quite a few screens against Illinois State. How do you feel about various Arbuckle screen-related things and Wink after week one?
I mean, the screens were all tight end screens mostly, and it was as soon as Michigan wanted to do something about it, they did. I thought Wink was just practicing. He had two guys back, and the second that one of the linebackers decides I'm just going to go and blast this slot receiver because he's not going to do anything, and they're not going to throw it downfield, it's going to be a little different here. This is a whole different type of offense, and I think those screens for Arbuckle are all about keeping people away from his run game, which Michigan's not going to bother with. So, I think there were times when like TJ Metcalf could have gone and made a huge play and just kind of hung back. I think that they're going to just be a little faster to rip at those, and maybe they'll try to hit us downfield when they attack like that. But I don't know. Arbuckle, his screens are part of the run game, right? That's how it's built into it, and I don't know if the screen game is going to be such a focus like it was last week. And last week, people are overrating how much it was like. They got any yards against us, we got upset. But when you go back and look, like they had like one drive, and then there was one drive where they got some officiating, and then they finished it off well. But it took them 12 plays to get the ball in the end zone after they got down to the red zone. And then, they didn't really do anything the rest of the game. Michigan sat back and covered two because that's what we do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, both these teams didn't play the most serious of opponents in the first week. So there is some things we're still going to learn. But at least on this side of the ball, it seems to be pointing towards a defensive struggle of some kind.
All right. Well, let's go back and talk about that. We'll go to a break now. We'll talk about that stodgy defense in a sec. Since 2001, Underground Printing has been the Ann Arbor original. Starting from a West Quad dorm room and growing into the go-to source for custom apparel and Michigan gear. Whether you're gearing up for game day or creating custom design for your team or business, Underground Printing has you covered. With 3 convenience stores right on campus, getting your hands on high-quality Wolverine gear has never been easier. Visit Underground Printing today, in-store or online at shop.undergroundshirts.com, where Michigan pride meets top-notch service.
1, 2, 3, into the 4th win over Ohio State in a row.
Defeats Ohio State 42-27. The final score from Columbus 45-23. Michigan. And I don't know it. Michigan defeats Ohio State 30-24. The Wolverines win it 13-10.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, CFP founder and president at Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. You can learn more at peakwm.com/mgoblog. You know, I'm pretty good at spotting trends in financial planning and in the marketplace. I think I just found another one. Cheers to 5 in a row.
The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough made possible by developments in communications.
Arthur C. Clarke's 1964 vision is now reality with Signalwire, a cloud platform that enables developers to build the applications that will reshape the future of communications.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be.
You can add cutting-edge, real-time video and audio to any product, website, or application with APIs and SDKs for developers of all skill sets. Signalwire is optimized for high-quality and low-latency communication functionality, for video, voice, and text messaging capabilities.
Almost any skill could be made independent of distance. Men will no longer commute. They will communicate.
See for yourself at signalwire.com. Use code 2021 and receive $25 in developer credit. Go to signalwire.com.
Signalwire Communications OGs, original geeks of programmable communication.
Long Road Distillers ready-to-drink canned cocktails are made for Michigan game days. Our lavender lemonade is crafted with our own vodka, real ingredients, and an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. No corners cut, no shortcuts taken. Distilled and canned in Grand Rapids, it's ready for the tailgate, the stands, or your post-game celebration. So whether you're gearing up for the game, raising a can in victory, or charting for the next UFR, take the long road. Made in Michigan, for Michigan.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.2, and we just got word from Brian, by the way. He's not going to make it. He's got a minor family thing going on right now, and not a big deal. We're going to roll without him. And
well, you've studied this team too, so we've got it covered.
Yeah, and I don't think there's plenty of football guys out there who have studied the Venables defense because he has been at this for many, many years. A major part of the Clemson runs at championships, and finally got him a job after, it was kind of like wondering if it was ever going to happen. When he finally got, the Oklahoma job opened up, he took it. He's a little on the shaky side because of his offense, but his defense has really kind of come along as people expected. He's now got all the guys that he wanted. Surprisingly few, except for a couple of them up front, surprisingly few guys who are transfers, especially all the way down the depth. So they've built their defense. This is the other side of that Spider-Man pointing thing where, they really kind of relied on their defense last year, and they're going to really rely on it this year. And it's going to be tough sledding, especially for a true freshman in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, definitely. Venables' long history. He was at Clemson from 2012 to the present day, or till 2021, then Oklahoma to the present. He was at Oklahoma in the 2000s under Bob Stoops. Interesting subplot I don't think I've seen discussed anywhere, but he was on Oklahoma's coaching staff when Sharon Moore was on Oklahoma's roster in the 2006-2007 season. So that's interesting. They weren't on the same side of the ball, obviously, but
yeah,
Venables, in his time at Oklahoma, is a head coach, has done a good job with his defense. The offense has been up and down. When it was decent with Dylan Gabriel, they were pretty good. When it was a disaster last year with Jackson Arnold, They weren't very good, but he has steered this defense from the disaster it was at times under Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch towards a pretty good unit. The first year they were 70th in SP Plus when they were installing the system. And the next year it moves up to I think 38th, and then last year it got into the top 20. So it's been steady progress. And Venables has talked about that they finally have seniors who have been here under this system for all 4 years, and that's definitely now an advantage to have that stuff built up. And they've been learning the system steadily, and they're hoping it pays off this season and gives them the backbone of what should be a pretty good SEC defense.
Yeah, now I thought we should talk a little bit about the history of that system and where it comes from and what it looks like, because those of us who remember Oklahoma when he was the defensive coordinator, they were one of the first teams that really solved the spread. Like all that zone reading stuff, the Rich Rod stuff, and as soon as it ran into Oklahoma, it was just dead. So how does he do it? Well, what are the two ways that people killed the spread? It was the Don Brown way, where you man up, and I've got talent, you've got talent, you're going to have to make tough throws and force the quarterback to be an NFL quarterback and throw it to NFL receivers and get open. Or there's the D'Antonio way, where your safeties are kind of always watching those edges, and they're involved in the run game. So instead of 7 guys in the box, you really have 9 because those safeties are coming down all the time. So that's really what Venables did, was take both approaches and just drill those things into his guys' heads. In fact, we discovered his cover 1 system is called Brown, which we're not sure. There's nowhere where he said it, but I do wonder, just because they were kind of coming up at the same time, and it was both the same, and it's exactly Brown's system. So half of their defense is Don Brown, and it's going to look exactly like Don Brown. They got a Viper that they call the Cheetah. The way that Don Brown defenses have evolved, and this happened at Michigan too, is that weak side linebackers become a safety as well, because you don't want to. Everyone remembers 2018, right? Like you can't get somebody matched up against a running back or a slot receiver who can't run with them. So that's really the only difference from the one that you remember. They got a big anchor, and that's going to be Marvin Jones. They've got a weak side linebacker who's going to be their Winovich and Armason Thomas. They've got penetrating defensive tackles who are going to get upfield. They're going to man you up outside, or they're going to play that quarters coverage that D'Antonio runs. And then they've got they're just coming, right? Those defensive linemen are going to come. They're going to try to come around your guards and your tackles, and then the interior is going to get boxed up by that linebacker who's got. Kobe McKenzie's not really a neck rolly guy, but compared to the other guys at Oklahoma, he is. And then those linebackers are coming down, so one of those safeties going to have to fix those linebackers. So they're always just coming right at you, making things really tough, trying to get you out of the pocket, trying to get you just really not trusting anything and having to throw. So the best way to beat them would be to C.J. Stroud them. We obviously are not there with the offensive line, even if you do think that the quarterback's there. So yeah, let's go through these guys, but that's the system, right? And when we talk about these guys, we're going to try to figure out maybe players that they can attack, because both those systems really kind of require those players to be that good.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it right off the bat when you watch the tape. They are just aggressive. They come after you on that defensive line. Those tackles are trying to sprint into the backfield. The edges racing around the corner. And there's a lot of disguise pressures as well. And all that adds up to a system that has been very difficult for younger quarterbacks. There were a couple articles written about that by national people this week, and one of them on CBS Sports had a stat that Venables is 21-5 against freshman quarterbacks dating back to 2012 when he joined as Clemson's DC. That includes true freshmen and redshirt freshmen, as long as they're in that 18-19 range. So it's had a lot of success against players in Underwood's mold. Now, Underwood is an exceptional version of that, but it's not very hard watching the tape to figure out how this would be quite a problem for a lot of younger quarterbacks that aren't developed as much in terms of their processing and the speed, because the pressure is going to speed you up, and then deciphering the coverage and then making the throws needed to beat the secondary. It is a tall task, but there are ways to do it.
Yeah, man. Like I mean, if there's a weak spot on these guys, it's probably the cornerbacks. And I know we normally don't start with that, especially when we're previewing a
No,
team that Michigan's playing. But yeah,
yeah, we should start on the defensive line.
Yeah.
I want to get into the danger man for the piece is R. Mason Thomas.
hmm
I don't know what the R is about there. It's not an R period. It's just an R. R. Mason Thomas. So
they used to do this back in the 1800s, right?
well, right,
Yeah. F.
but
Scott Fitzgerald.
it doesn't appear to signify his first name because there's no period. I'm not sure exactly what the story is there, but regardless, he's a really good player. 6'2", 249. He's one of the top pass rushers in the SEC last year. He was 9th in PFF pass rush grade among SEC starting edges. Yeah, that was right next to guys like James Pierce Jr. and Nick Scorton, who were both drafted. So we're talking a serious talent here. 9 sacks a year ago. It's going to be an issue. Like, there's just no two ways about it. He's going to get Link and Sprague at some point in this game, and Michigan's got to just figure out how to kind of work around that and mitigate it, because he will be one of the best pass rushing edge defenders Michigan will see this entire season.
Yeah, I mean, he's wily. You can't get your hands on that dude. And we've had our share, right? We had Josiah Stewart, we had Mike Dannon, who was that kind of style end as well, and then you go back to Winovich was another version of that too. Like you've seen this kind of guy before. You've seen what they can do if you don't give Link help, and that is it's concerning because we'd love to see them unleash Bryce, but last week I thought they were kind of they made things easy, right? They did a lot of rollouts, they did a lot of play action, they did not do a lot of drop back passing, and when they did, they the pass Link got beat, but he didn't get beat right away, right? He was kind of surviving, and I thought that was they had a couple of real defensive ends. They had a guy from Memphis, and then they had the guy that we both liked who gave Oregon such a hard time. But it was not at the R. Mason Thomas level, where that guy can just teleport around somebody if you're dropping back. So it's going to be really important for Michigan, I think, to stay on schedule, to have have Bryce passing from play action or try to roll him away from Mason Thomas's side. And I mean, they got talent on the other side. Marvin Jones, blue chip recruit, 5-star, top 24, kind of didn't make it at Georgia or FSU, and usually that's kind of a bad thing. But in his case, I think it's just someone offers more money, he's just going to go there.
Yeah, I don't think he's like an impact player or anything, but yeah, okay, what he does, and they have younger guys to rotate in behind him, right? He's not going to play the whole game. They're going to go to guys like Taylor Wine, who's a younger edge, had a couple pass rush moments against Illinois State. They've got a blue chip, like 5-star kind of guy in his second year below him. So those are some names that will come through there on that side. And then on the interior,
Wait. You're not getting out of this without saying Adeboare.
Yeah, Adepoju Adeboare.
Yep. There we go. We got
it.
Yeah.
A brother of an Adeboare at Northwestern, who was a real good player and an NFL draft pick. So
yeah,
those are guys to watch there. And on the interior, you have Dominic Williams, who's their nose tackle for the run game. But in the pass rush, the guy I'm watching is Grayson Halton. He's their best pass rushing interior tackle. He had a strip sack against LSU last year that the ball was on the ground, and R. Mason Thomas picked it up for a scoop and score. If that happens in this game, Michigan's not going to win. Like, you got to prevent those kinds of just devastating plays from happening. And on the pass rush downs where Halton and R. Mason Thomas are out there are going to be some challenges, both interior and around the edge with this defensive line. And it's not just the defensive linemen, though, because Venables does a good job of disguising where dudes are coming from, that they have plays where 5, 6, 7 guys can line up right on the line of scrimmage. You don't know who's coming and who's dropping. They've got situations where they blitz out of the slot and the linebacker or the edge drops in to replace him. And there was a play I found when I was going through the footage last year in the Auburn game where Peyton Thorne throws an interception because he's throwing into the slot. He thinks that's going to be open pre-snap, but then they dropped in an edge or a linebacker right into that spot, and it's an interception. And you can kind of see how that kind of stuff would be an issue for young quarterbacks. And there was a play in the Illinois State game where they didn't get the protection set properly, didn't see a slot blitzer coming who absolutely just smoked the quarterback. That's the stuff you're really looking out for in this game.
Yeah, for sure. The and putting so much effort into like keeping our Mason Thomas from getting at you, right? And that's what happens. He'll drop back, and you'll be like, "Oh shoot! I set the protection towards this guy, and I had a tight end who was there to help Evan, and now he's just dropping into the coverage, and that's going to be a major test. And this is why I was like, hey, pump the brakes for this week on Underwood, because it's a very difficult front to pass into. Now, once they get into their system, you can find guys downfield, right? And if this is a big if, can we get them blocked up, right? But I'm interested to see like what happens on those edges, because I think that they got a couple two defensive tackles who are 323. Dominic Williams, we saw him as a true freshman against TCU. They're going to try to get into the backfield, but I think that Michigan's their offensive line is good enough just to like not die. They're not going to get -2s in those matchups. Now maybe in pass rush, right? Grayson Halton can get around a Brady Norton or something, but I feel a little bit confident that Michigan's just got the length and the talent to kind of hold those guys off. I'd really like to be able to attack on the edges, like get Marlon Klein on Kendall Daniels, who's the Oklahoma State transfer, who's playing the cheetah, that's the Viper role, or Kip Lewis, who's like the weak side linebacker, who's kind of a small dude. If you can get like Max Bredesen blocking that guy, I think that's where Michigan could probably have some success in the run game.
Yeah, I mean, Kip Lewis is 227. Even Kobe McKenzie is 236. These guys are definitely blockable if you can get to them, but the whole idea is that they're so relentless, so attacking, they're just going to kind of bog you down at the line of scrimmage and ideally get some penetration that you're not going to get your interior offensive line up to the second level. But tight end blocking against some of the lighter players is definitely the area I'd look the most. The other thing is, sometimes when those edges are so aggressive going after the quarterback, you can attack going that way. And you can pull out a couple of things if you remember what Michigan did against Manny Diaz, Penn State, where they would kind of take advantage of the edges who were pinning their ears back to go and get the quarterback. And inserting some quarterback run and zone reads to keep them honest, it has to be a part of the game plan to me.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Penn State ran out of DTs, and Oklahoma's not going to. They got like a 9th overall recruit from last year who's like they can put in there. It's like they have backups that they can keep on throwing on the field. So I'm not sure, and I don't know if Michigan's really built that way this year, right? Where they just like then in 23 you could just keep on adding dudes who could block on the edges, and we might run out of those before they do. But I do think that you have to scheme it up, right? If you can survive on the inside when they're coming by and see it coming, and you got some older guys like El Hadi and Crippen, right? Like those are smart players. So if you can pick up what they're doing and get those guys to move by, it's too bad we don't have and same thing for Penn State back in the day, but like too bad we don't have a outside zone, right? That would be the way I would go after these guys if you have like experienced linemen and they're calling up field like that, because they're just going to be attacking and trying to fill those gaps, and you extend the gaps to the point where they're trying to fill them with linebackers and safeties. And that's the one other thing too. They have good safeties who grade out fantastically on PFF, I bet you, because without even looking, I could tell you that they would, just because of the way that they play. So Peyton Bowen is a former blue chip in his 3rd year. They really like him. He's pretty locked in at strong safety. Free safety, we really like Robert Spears-Jennings. He's a captain and one of the best players on the team, we thought. We put a star on him, and he didn't even start this week, or last week. Michael Boganowski started ahead of him, who's a true sophomore, big hitter. What's going on there?
I can't really tell. It's strange that Spears-Jennings didn't start in the first game. Snap count was close to even between him and Boganowski, but Spears-Jennings was chosen as a team captain as well. He's a senior. It's not like us that we're just like, oh, this guy is good. You can Google his name. He comes up very highly. And like there was I think the Oklahoma On 3 site was doing like the ranking of the top players on the team and the countdown to the season. And he was like 3rd on their list. Like everyone seems to agree he was one of the best players on the team, and then he doesn't start the first game. So not sure what's going on there. Kind of the hunch is that maybe Boganowski's a younger guy. He had a good camp. They wanted to reward him for that kind of work and inserting himself as a 3rd safety. I'm really interested to see how that rotation is in the first week, because that was surprising to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, those guys are going to be because they're so talented, all those guys can kind of hang back, and that's why I'm expecting. And we put Robert Spears-Jennings on the on our chart instead of Boganowski because he feels like the guy who has the talent to kind of stay back and wait for you to do something and then fly down so fast. And Peyton Bowen as well. And that's really where they fix their problems if you do crack them, those guys are showing up. But it does leave their cornerbacks kind of out on an island. And that's, I think, ideally if we had, offensive line from the NFL, then you could just kind of live that way and attack them. There might be some opportunities there because they got some injuries there. We'll talk about those. Not a big fan of some of the players that they've been even talking up. They're not that big. They're not that. I don't know. Like what's going on with the cornerback situation?
Well, they have an injury to Eli Bowen, who is Peyton Bowen's little brother. He was a true freshman last year, and he was undersized for an outside corner, yet he had a great season, and he was on all-freshman SEC team, kind of considered a rising star on this team. And then he's been injured basically this whole calendar year. He sat out spring with a boot on his leg. Then it was kind of ominous. He wasn't ready for fall camp. He wasn't listed on the official depth chart that was put out before week 1. And I found an Oklahoma guy that was like a reporter, and someone asked him about all the players who didn't play in the first game. And he was like, oh, yeah, they were all mostly precautionary except for 2. And one of the 2 was Eli Bowen. So that suggests to me that he's probably not going to play in this game. And if that's the case, then they have a couple options for that spot. And they ended up going with Cortland Guillory, who is a true freshman, not like a super blue chip guy, just like kind of a fringe 4-star sort of player. The other option who didn't play in that game, probably for precautionary reasons, is Jacoby Johnson. He's a few years older. He's played at Oklahoma, not very well, though. And so you're kind of just picking between an older guy who isn't very good and a true freshman at that spot. And if Michigan had a better passing game and better wide receivers, that would be a major area to attack. I still would think about trying to see if you can get something out of it, but I'm assuming Gentry Williams will be on Donovan McCulley, in which case that's a size mismatch. Gentry Williams is only 5'11", so punt and pray there is definitely a legitimate option with this secondary situation.
Yeah, and that was kind of the other way I was thinking, that you can go after these guys if you want to, if you can just body those dudes up. And we remember the Don Brown era, and that was what broke it in the end, is they didn't have the cornerbacks to keep up. So, I mean, it'd be weird for Michigan to do that just because we haven't, that's just never been there. But that was something they talked about all off season. It's something that they wanted Donovan McCulley for specifically, and that's just one way that you can maybe get those safeties to not get so involved in the run game, and then maybe get yourself get some opportunities down below when you crack them for big plays. But I'm not expecting a lot. Are you?
Not necessarily. I mean, it should be noted when you talk about to the Don Brown-ness, that's not the only thing they do, right? Like that's the other challenge for the quarterback is maneuvering when it's their man coverage cover 1 looks and then their split safety quarters looks, and that's going to be a challenge in and of itself.
Yep. All right, so score prediction for this one?
I still think I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I'm still going to lean Oklahoma just with the home field advantage. First road start for Bryce Underwood. I'll go 20-17.
All right. I'm saying 13-10. It's going to be a low-scoring one. All right. We're going to come back. We'll be done with this. That's our Oklahoma preview. We're going to come back and talk about things that we saw against New Mexico, starting with you got to start with Bryce Underwood.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood from Peak Wealth Management. Here's some Kalel Mullins and some Gus Johnson for you.
4th down and 9. Do or die for Ohio State. Howard in trouble. Incomplete. Ohio State turns it over on downs. And the Michigan Wolverines will shock the college football world.
But at the end of the day, some people gotta learn how to lose, man.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, CFP at Peak Wealth Management. Reach out to us at peakwm.com/mgoblog to learn more. At Peak, we have 25 years of planning and investing experience. We've been through the tough years in the market. 01, 08, 20, 22. And we've learned how to navigate these bear markets. We learned how to help mitigate losses and limit the losses, unlike Ohio State, who continues to lose year after year and not learn from their mistakes. Every time they call a run play, it's a gift. Which victory was your favorite and why? Out of 21, 22, 23, or 24? Email me, nick@peakwm.com. We'll read your submission on our podcast episode this week. Search out Nick Hopwood to find the Trust the Plan podcast or at youtube.com/peakwealthmgmt.
Hey, fellow Michigan fans, this is Matt Demarest, Realtor and Lender. For a decade now, you've heard me on the podcast talk about mortgages, and I've helped hundreds of fellow Michigan fans in that capacity, including Brian and Seth. But many of you don't know I'm a real estate broker as well. I promise to make buying, selling, or financing homes simple and cost-effective anywhere in the state of Michigan. Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, buying a vacation home, or building a real estate investment portfolio, send me a text or give me a call. It's never too early to make a plan, and the call is always free. My number is 734-882-8194. Again, 734-882-8194. Or you can find me online at realtorandlender.com. That's realtorandlender.com. Whether you want to buy, sell, or finance a home, or even all three, I promise to provide the experience so many of you have come to expect over the years. And as always, thank you, and go blue. NMLS 1011726, Equal Housing Lender.
1 and 2 and...
If you find yourself on the wrong side of the law, you want a Michigan man in the huddle. Call criminal law attorney and former prosecutor Jonathan Paul at 248-924-9458 or visit his website at michiganlawgrad.com. John is a proud graduate of the University of Michigan Ross School of Business and Michigan Law School. And he looks forward to showing you the Michigan difference.
It's the time of year where cracks in your defense get exposed. Good thing the fix is a phone call away. Community Pest Solutions is a lockdown defender for homes and businesses. If you're hearing noises in your walls or attic or dealing with bug problems, it's time to call Community. To schedule an inspection, just Google Community Pest Solutions or hit up their website at pestfreemi.com.
Yeah. They try to keep me inside the four walls. It ain't happening. I'm different.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.2. This is the point on Sprockets where we talk about Max Bredesen because Brian's not here to do so. And I read his UFR, and he seemed to have a very favorite player. But for some reason, everyone else wants to talk about the quarterback in this game. So, I went through the tape for the podcast. I mostly read through UFR. It kind of came out too late for me to get through it before this whole session. So, I kind of saw a lot of the same things that Brian did. Kind of let's dig in. What did you think, Alex? How was the debut of our quarterback? Did it change your feelings? You already said you're going to take him over Mateer, so.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely came in above expectations. For me, the biggest thing was contrasting what we saw in that game to what we saw in the spring game. Spring game was a little bit spooky in the accuracy. Like the deep balls in that game were pretty off the mark. He didn't throw any in this game, but there were just some moments in that spring game that it was kind of like, I don't know if this level of accuracy will play in the regular season. And then in this game, he seemed just really on point, and even in plays where he was on the run and that sort of thing, like just really in command, putting the balls exactly where they needed to be to receivers. That part was really impressive, and he never seemed panicked by impending pressure. And the biggest thing to me was he didn't run really at all. And I want him to run more against Oklahoma because that's going to be needed to evade pass protection breaking down and help the run game. But so often running the ball and just scrambling can be a crutch for quarterbacks who are young at the college level or settling into the NFL. Like, think about those Lion preseason games with Hendon Hooker, where it's just like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to run. Yeah. And there wasn't any of that in that first game. So that was really impressive to me.
The interesting thing is that, if you watched him as a senior at Belleville, they were running him all the time. Their offense was based off of him running. They'd spread it out 4 wide, kind of get him rolling, and one of the options that he had was just to take off, and it worked, right? Like, there was nobody in high school who could keep up with him. You did see that he would try to keep plays alive, and that was another thing you saw from J.J. McCarthy, right? Where if there's an opportunity to go deep, he's going to want to go deep. The main thing I saw, and Brian, this kind of came out too. We're going to go into the negatives first. He wants his first read to be there, and it's a little concerning about Oklahoma because they're going to want to take those away, right? But we're talking about sophomore complaints here. I want to put that out there first. These are things that you see in a sophomore quarterback all the time, where he knows what he wants to do, he knows what the reads are, he's getting to the right reads. He's just not quick enough sometimes to get there when the defense has him dead to rights, when they called the right call and they can cover the first 2 reads. And the one that really stuck out to me, and Brian noticed this one too on there, was the one to Marlon Klein. That he's got 3 slants, and the idea is the first slant clears out room for the second one. If you don't have that one, you go to the third one, and it's it's there. So they're packing the inside, but Marlon Klein, it's a very tight fit. It's not really going to get the first down if he catches it, and if he goes one more read, he's got it. But his read is, the first time he sees it, right? I see a linebacker's picked up the first slant. That means I'm going to have some space. He finds the linebacker he's looking at. He thinks he can fit it in there. The other one he threw, which was a conversion on third down, was that one to Samaj. And again, if you just go down to your next read, it's there. But he gets kind of locked on to what he wants because you saw it pre-snap. So I think now that people have some tape on him as a college quarterback and in Michigan's offense, we rolled him out of the pocket. They didn't want him kind of sitting there and just doing drop-back passing yet. Which is fine because he can throw it across his body and hit a snag on a dime, so might as well do it. But he is still a young quarterback. I wouldn't put him on the true freshman level at all anymore. I think what we saw was a guy who's already got the offense down, somebody who already knows where he wants the ball to go, somebody who just has uncanny accuracy. And then this goes back to what they were seeing when they were talking about him as an NFL prospect. His throwing motion is so perfect. It's C.J. Stroud's throwing motion. And it's weird to be okay, this guy's got Vince Young's legs, and you're comping him to one of the best natural throwers in the NFL. But that's what he is, right? That's when the ball comes out, it's not just in front of a guy's face mask, not just on a guy's face mask, it's in front of the face mask. It's where the ball needs to be for you to pluck it out of the air easily and catch and run. And that throw on 3rd and 14, where he finds his, it's a weird coverage. Okay, because they're dropping 8 guys, and you've got the safety in the middle who's kind of a robber. He doesn't fit in the rest of the scheme. The rest of the scheme is a Tampa 2, right, where they got their 2 safeties dropping back, and then you got a linebacker dropping into a middle coverage, but then you got a robber. He finds the robber, and he looks at that guy, and he doesn't look off him to him until he knows where he's going to go on this dagger route, which is J.J. McCarthy's favorite play, right? And it makes it look so easy. You're wondering why it was so easy against an 8-man coverage. It's because he moved that safety, and that's just it's not a freshman. There's no freshman who makes that look.
Yeah, I mean, what did we think about the sort of tight windows? I mean, he did do some of that in this game. Is there any sort of fear from the tape about that part of his game?
The one Brian pulled up was and I think this one was kind of obvious to everybody, is where he throws across his body. He's a little bit late to Donovan McCulley, and McCulley gets lit up. And even that play, it does hit his receiver's hands. Now, it's not complete. But, I mean, you're going to see NFL guys make that throw too, right? He didn't have it. He's getting he's on the move, so he's kind of having to throw it across his body. And the fact that he can even make that throw and it not be interception, it didn't feel like it was going to be interception. Now, as you progress, he's going to, as he gets, more comfortable in the system and what he wants to do, he'll get to his next read faster, and he'll be able to make those kinds of throws. But like Brian is looking at this thing, he's like, "Hey man, you got a corner out to Max Bredesen open." And she's like, "I'm not sure he's gonna run the corner out to Max Bredesen quite yet, right? Like that's asking for quite a lot here." But like the things that he had to do a lot of times, the competition caveat, right? But they had a linebacker who's just going hell for leather every single time he sees, or the one time he sees, right? Because we'll get into Chip Lindsey in a second. But like the one time he sees that, he just puts that on Marlon Klein so perfectly. And I think that's an interesting thing, that Marlon Klein is not somebody that we really got much use out of last year, even though he had to play a ton, right? But
yeah, I mean that was one of my thoughts about this game. Honestly, is that there was so much conversation with the insiders in the lead up to the first game through fall camp about like, oh my God, the tight end play without Hogan Hansen, it really needs to get better. Guys aren't doing very well, and then I thought Klein played really well in that game. I don't know, at least in the first sample, I'm not sure where the complaining and fretting was coming from.
Well, let's make something clear about Klein. He's not Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland, and maybe Hogan Hansen's going to be like this, but Loveland is a guy who is able to get open himself. He's a wide receiver who's tight end size, which is what they use in the NFL these days. So you put him one-on-one on the toes of a safety, and he's going to win that route, and he's going to get open, and then you have someone to throw to. I don't think that's Klein. I don't think I've ever seen Klein do that. So he's a run-fast guy. But in this offense, where you can establish they have that one play-action pass early, where you saw a linebacker just a few plays earlier who's kind of reacting to the pull, and so you hit him with that immediately. Send Klein down the seam. He's got a big catch radius. He doesn't have to dodge anybody. Then you have the other one where, Bryce just kind of lifts it over a couple linebackers, and it falls into Klein's hands as he's on the run, and it's like, you don't have to shake anybody there. You just have to be fast and have a big catch radius. And then the touchdown's the same thing, right? He does a good job to kind of look away and then get open. That's the play. I'm not saying that's like, you're not putting him in a two-way go. He's not doing a Jake Butt thing right there. That's the play call. But he gets the play call right. He looks when he's supposed to look. He waits to do it until the last second. He gets that move on, and then he gets himself open, and then Bryce just has to kind of put a catchable ball there, and he makes the catch. So he's just a great fit for what they're doing now. He wasn't a great fit last year when you really needed your tight end to be the guy who, I don't care what coverage you're on, right? We're going to spread it out. We're going to make sure that you have a two-way go on somebody, and wherever you are, the quarterback can throw it to you, and Michigan could use him as a crutch. Klein is a system guy, but he's a really good system guy, and now you have a quarterback who can run that system, and you have an offensive coordinator who can see when to make his calls. That's a really good weapon. The other really good weapon is Max Bredesen.
Brian's favorite topic.
You see him in this game. Like first of all, the first time he gets in the game, he has they have a 56-yard run because he makes a block downfield. And this is the thing I was going on about him all offseason, is like the way he blocks you, you have to over commit. And when you do that, you're not paying attention to anything else. So things that normally would happen with a kick-out block are not there. The edge is open for a really good running back to bounce outside of, because Bredesen is going to make that guy overcommit. Or if he doesn't overcommit, he's just going to get shoved out of the way, and then the running back just runs off his butt. So, that's something that can, and by running back, Bryce Underwood can be that too. So, like, there were multiple times in this where, like, the play doesn't really change because he's just blocking a guy, but the way he's blocking a guy is so violent. If fullback was still an All-American position, I think that he would be an All-American this year.
And what did we think of Chip from the first game?
It feels very different. Brian was going on about how he's a Malzahn guy. And this is something we talked about all offseason, right? Where we've had these coordinators for a long time, and I would include Sharon Moore in this too, where they want to set things up, right? I'm going to give you this look 5 or 6 times, and now that you're overreacting to it, then I'm really going to hit you. And sometimes, would have that guy open over the top and you don't hit him, and it's like, okay, now we just kind of waste all this offense. Chip Lindsey was a Malzahn guy. He's the guy who comes along and tries to make your thing work. And I wrote my next Sharpies on this too. He takes something that Michigan's doing, the tiny tight end thing, which they got from the Ravens. And it doesn't really work in this game because their receivers are not great blockers. And I think that maybe when Jalen Hoffman's available, maybe they can use him instead of Fred Moore in some of these roles, because that guy is someone who can be a receiving threat, but also is someone who's going to make that block and make that block count. But Lindsey, the sequencing is not like we're going to set this up, then we go. He sees you overreacting one time, one play or 2 plays later, it's going to be the response to that. And there were a bunch of RPS things in this game where it was like, you know, you know that he's got a counter to it. And there was nothing in this game except maybe they threw something in from the go-go offense that we didn't get to see against UNLV, even though it was supposed to be installed. But they threw something in there for Capana, and that's the only thing that didn't have another thing that looked like it, that punishes you for responding to it. And there's one point in this game, I don't think they got very much out of it because I think they made the wrong RPO read. But there was one point in this game where Michigan's running into a 5-man box. Or when's the last time Michigan ran into a 5-man box?
Been a long time.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, Chip Lindsey's going to be able to just take the things we were doing and make them viable as offense, which is always the point. And it was just something that's been lacking. I think that Kirk Campbell was not, he never got exposed to that and never even ran his offense that way. And seeing it all work together, it was just, when's the last coordinator we had who did that? I can't think of it.
Yeah, been a bit.
that was the moment of you thinking, right? You're like, well, I mean, there's Harbaugh, right? When Harbaugh comes in 2015, 2016, he's doing things that look like things. But he's got like so many things he throws at you. It was still that grab bag approach. It was just Harbaugh was throwing things at you haven't seen since 2006. So it was new. It was new to everybody, and it worked. But yeah, man, like having offense just based on offense, especially after looking at the defense and how New Mexico was running their offense, it was cool. It's like I'm happy to see this thing looking like that thing, and I'm like, okay, these 3 things look together. We have paper and scissors again.
Anything else to bring up?
I mean, it's hard to look at anything on the OL against this team.
Yeah.
Crippen had a really good game. I think he graded out really well for Brian too. But that was Crippen's game, right? When I looked at him against Ohio State and looked at him against Alabama, I was like, this guy's just getting killed by big players. And it's not like he didn't make the right read. It's because, like, Tyleik Williams is a good player and is just going to one-arm him out of the way. This team was the opposite, right? This is a guy, they have a 240-pound defensive tackle. Their other tackle couldn't really last that long, so if you have any long downs, he's going to be kind of, run out of steam. And they had to kind of move guys around and stunt a whole bunch, so it was more of a question of can you pick up the stunt than can you move a guy. And when it comes to that, Crippen's your dude. I thought there were a few times where Nathan Afobe kind of made a mistake. He kind of fell down one time. I thought Braden Norton looked better than him. That looks like the right call to have him in there. Which, hey, at least we're making the right call there. And then Evan Link, he got a couple times. He also moved guys a couple times. It looked better than before, but also just the way they're running their offense tells you what they think of Link. So I think that we learned maybe more from what they were doing than how they were doing it.
Yeah, and we'll get a real measuring stick this week on the offensive line, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all we can learn from New Mexico. We'll learn a lot more this week against Oklahoma. Let's take one more break, and we'll have a short segment about what I learned against New Mexico's weird offense. Whether you just lost a tooth on the field, chipped one at a tailgate, or it's just time to get those wisdom teeth out, Radicke Oral Surgery has you covered. Trusted by Celine and Ann Arbor families for 25 years. The Radicke Oral Surgery team treats every patient like family, and they accept most major dental insurance plans. We're going to have a lot of reasons to smile this year, so make sure that thing is ready. So when it's time to replace or remove a tooth, call up the team that always converts. Visit drradicke.com to schedule. DRRADECKI.com.
Hi, this is Pete with Sharon's Heating and Air Conditioning. You've probably noticed that we are terrible about keeping our podcast advertisements up to date and topical to Michigan sports. Probably because we're so busy doing preventative maintenance for all of our many happy customers. We know no one is excited to call their HVAC contractor, and to make that a rare occurrence, you should regularly maintenance your system. Call us or text us to find out more about the benefits of our preventative maintenance plans, including savings on service calls and priority scheduling. Whatever the season, we want you to be comfortable for that next glorious Michigan victory.
Winewood Organics is Ann Arbor's only cannabis microbusiness. It's a place where plants are grown in living soil, where nearly every product is made, mixed, trimmed, and packed by hand, where first-time customers save 25% on everything from old-school hash to live resin carts. You can find them just west of downtown or at winewoodorganics.com. Winewood Organics, a place where the weed is better. Need help with insurance? Well, longtime MGO blog supporter Owen Rosen is back at his new insurance brokerage, Royal Oath Insurance Group. Owen might not be the knowledge, but he and his team have the life, business, car, and home insurance knowledge you need. Based in Michigan, but they can also help in other states too, you can call or text Owen today at 586-229-1026 or visit Royal Oath, that's OATH, insurance.com.
Frustrated with your current e-commerce agency? Then it's time to meet Human Element, a digital marketing and web development agency with 20 years of experience building B2B and B2C websites. See us as an extension of your team, accessible, responsive, and strategic. We work with you to understand your goals so that we can build something that drives revenue and delights your customers. So if you're looking for an agency that acts as a true partner in your e-commerce business, visit human-element.com/partner. We can't wait to work with you.
In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages approximately $100,000. It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
Hit it again, Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I was born in the city where I had to get it down. On the east side with the gridiron, so the whole world had to hear me out. I said, oh Lord, keep my hands clean, give me exactly what I need. He said,
welcome back to MGoRadio 11.2. That music is provided by Booster, who's the dude in Detroit who all the young guns look up to. It's your favorite band's favorite band. Well, except one kind of dude. But anyway, Booster, very good dude. Check him out on Spotify, and I think I'll put the links on the Instagram. He's on there, whatever. I learned some things about defending college crap. That was this is the segment where we're talking about Michigan's defense against New Mexico's quote offense. And I mean, did you get through the UFR?
I've skimmed it so far, but in general, how much is applicable to real opponents?
Oh my God, I was being dismissive because I kept on looking for things that I could find that are useful, and they just have all these little tricks, and they're doing this, and Michigan is just kind of sitting back and being like, "Do whatever, man. We'll catch you at the 50," and pretty much worked. They had one drive where when they got to the 50 and they ran out of ideas, they ran two trick plays, and that got them a touchdown. And then, and the other plays, they just kind of pretty much got stuffed. And then they had another drive where, everyone remembers the Barham call, and then By the way, I got some clarification on what happened there. The guy was still kind of writing up the arm call and just wasn't watching when the guy caught it when he missed the out of bounds. So that apparently happens sometimes when replay officials are kind of overworked. So they need more replay officials apparently, and that was the only problem with that one. So that was the problem. That was the scores in the game. Their other field goal was on a 3 and out after a botched after a fumbled kick return. So I mean, people are calling me out like, "Hey man, why do you call rollouts college crap?" These are things that you see in the NFL too. I'm like, yes, but you see them like, 4 or 5% of plays, not 66% of their plays. And then the rest of it was mostly like quick passing. Right? They were not going to do any drop back passing. They almost never ran the ball unless it was with a zone read or an RPO. And that's college crap, right? It's just trying to move the ball in any way you can. Mostly got things off their tight end screens. It's hard to really learn anything, in that environment, except for, will Wink Martindale be Wink Martindale? And I thought that, people saw him blitzing. They were bringing 5 a whole bunch of times, mostly because and this is going to be something we're going to see against CMU and a bunch of other teams too. Probably not Oklahoma unless they want to die. But the multi-tight end sets. So New Mexico was bringing out 3 tight ends or 2 tight ends a lot, and then putting those guys in the spread. Exactly what I talked about in my article, right? In Hail to the Victors, where I said, this is what teams are going to do to Michigan. This is the hole in the amoeba defense. Because what ends up happening is you turn TJ Guy into a slot defender. And basically, you're making TJ Guy play Mike Samerstill's job. And he's not good at that, right? He's a defensive end. Now, he can do it on occasion. He can do it as a surprise. He can do it as well as some linebackers. But he's not going to do it as, like, your main defensive thing. And I thought that was New Mexico's one plan of attack that was at all sustainable. Mostly they were attacking him with tight end screens and that, but Michigan brought the big nickel out and then didn't use it the way they didn't have the nickel replacing TJ Guy's role. They left Guy where he was, and they had a linebacker kind of playing the end on the other side, and then just had the big nickel playing nickel, which is not the point, right? Like, the whole idea was to have a coverage guy in that slot and see if he can survive against the run. So it was an interesting thing that Wink did bring his big nickel package out, but not the way that I anticipated he would do it. Not aligning it the way that I thought they would, which just emphasized some of the weaknesses of the players in that system. So I'm a little concerned about that, where you're like, okay, I've been waiting for this big nickel package. Now they bring it out, and it's like you're doing it wrong. Ironically enough, they're going to see Venables do it because he has a big nickel, and they play that way. So we'll see how that goes. Some guys who had a big game. Damon Payne started really kind of he did all the things that Damon Payne's supposed to do. Great run defender, push guys in the backfield. Didn't really separate from anybody, but you didn't expect him to. But that was very effective against this offense. Because anytime they're trying to do anything, they have to deal with the fact that their guard is 3 yards in the backfield. Goal line, whatever it was, he was very effective. I thought this was his kind of game. But I thought Trey Williams could have performed similarly, and he didn't. So it was a little concerning that I didn't get much out of Trey Williams. They ran some zone against him, and he didn't make the Mason Graham play, and I was like, how come we're not making the Mason Graham play? But you're going to have to come down from where we were last year at defensive tackles.
And Enow Etta graded out pretty well in this game, too.
He did. That was another guy who I thought he was put in a position where he got to play his game. So like I said, when they bring out those 2 tight ends, Michigan's going to respond with their 5-2, which makes Enow Etta the end. So he is like a 3-4 defensive end, like a strong side end on the 3-4. So he's the one who benefits. He's the one who gets single blocking. There was one play where the tackle tries to down block him. He's got longer arms than the tackle does. Just kind of gets outside of that right tackle, pushes him in the backfield, and makes the stop himself. I'm not sure how that's going to work against better players, right? You're going to go against Oklahoma, and those guys are going to have freaky long arms. You're not just going to be able to wrench that guy back and forth like Etta did in this game. However, last year he was just getting blown out in those kinds of situations. And now you see what they can do with someone who has these freaky proportions. Because he came in, and Michigan was like, we can make this guy into a defensive end. He's got the same proportions as Aiden Hutchinson. Not Aiden Hutchinson's talents and then he's stretching the imagination, but he's just got those proportions, right? Very long, built just super strong, has a lot of weight in his lower body. And that gives you an opportunity to, wrench guys back and forth, unless they're the same size as you. These guys were very much not, and so it was just such an advantage. I thought that he was able to take advantage of that and come out really well. The other guy though is Trey Pierce, who didn't. That's the other side of the coin. I thought he was going to be able to had the same kind of advantage. He was someone who last year was doing some Mason Graham-y kind of things where he just kind of wrench a guy back and forth and then just beat them by strength. We'll see if that works a little bit better, because his game is going to be something that beats NFL tackles or NFL guards, where maybe Eno Etta doesn't. Maybe he's going to get pushed around by doubles. He did have his one negative against a double. But that's what you want to see, right? You want to see proof of concept, and it was a proof of concept for them. I wouldn't necessarily reorder the DT depth chart just yet, but you saw it. You saw the things that we wanted to see from both those guys, and Michigan has so many defensive tackles. Benny was in there doing the Benny things. They avoided him. Derek Moore was in there doing the Derek Moore things. They avoided him. The only guys who, Barham gets moved out, but he was Barham when he was in there. Hausman did a lot of little good things, and then they beat him on a couple screens and just a tackle here and there. And then people were like, oh, no, Hausman's got some negatives. And I'm just like, yeah, but you grade out positively. That's good for a linebacker. So I'm not going to be mad at somebody who graded out like a Michael Barrett game. So, yeah, man, that front seven's fine, yeah.
How do we feel about the Barham suspension? Like, what is the plan going to be? Do you think it's Rolder's going to take those snaps, or maybe more Cole Sullivan? What's the thought there?
So here's the thing. Rolder had a great game because he started reading those screens, started just slamming those receivers back into it, and then coming off that and making the tackle, which is what you want to see from a senior, right? He moves like a linebacker. He's your Ben Gedeon, probably going to get drafted. Can be a linebacker's linebacker. His problem is that Cole Sullivan is going to be a freaking dude, man. I had him on plus 8.5 on 15 snaps. And you saw it, right? Like you saw there was one time they're running duo and they have to come off because, Sullivan's coming, and the tackle can't even come off his double in time before Sullivan's by him. And he started from far back, but he's just so fast. And then you saw the interception where it's a jump ball to a tight end who's a tall guy, and we'd seen him made some plays earlier in the game where that guy can get up, right? And he just out-jumps him. He out-rebounds him. And it was one of those jumps where it went right past like the kind of things that you would hope a linebacker can do, and into like, hey, man, I wonder if Dusty May can use that guy. It was it's just freaky. So I don't know what Cole Sullivan's going to do when you get him against he has to do more linebacker things because linebacker's hard. But if you're looking for someone who can kind of do the Barham things, Cole Sullivan, he's huge, he's long. That sack he had where he ran down Lane from behind, Lane thinks he's got time, and he doesn't. Because those arms are so freaking long, all of a sudden he's got one on his throwing shoulder, so he can't throw the ball. And then he thinks he can maybe kind of like wrench free, but he can't because the other arm gets around him. And then all of a sudden he's ripping him down. And he's like, I have to go down. And it's fourth down, and you can't even get a throwaway on a fourth down when you're rolling out because this guy is just so fast and long that all your space disappears. So I like Rolder. I think Rolder's a great linebacker. I think that if he played in a lot of different eras, he would have been Michigan's starting linebacker. And poor guy is stuck behind Barham. He's probably going to be the starter because Michigan rewards seniors and they like that guy. But I want to see Sullivan. I want to see what Sullivan can do until he starts making mistakes. He's popping, man.
And then anything in the secondary?
Most of them were sitting back. You saw Mason Curtis do a couple things with his Gumby arms where they had a throw, it's completed, He's going down, and then his arm gets in there. Actually, the one that was reviewed, he knocks that out. And he knocks it out from a position where most safeties are going to have his hand on the elbow, and his arm reaches all the way in and gets on the nose of the football, and that's how he knocks that out. And then he had another one too, where you think it's a catch over the middle because he came down a little bit late. He was playing conservatively, but I think that was the game plan. There were a couple times where I wanted to see him race down earlier, but I think that was just, let's let them get to the 50 and then try to figure something out. So Curtis it's going to work. I think he's a guy. Jaden Mangum, I think that he's just kind of your boring safety. He did the most boring thing you can possibly do when he got beat on that fade in the end zone, which is wait till the guy's in the air and push him out of bounds. And he did a little chirping afterwards because the guy does have a degree from Michigan State. But I'm all in on Mangum. I think he's going to be a solid player. Metcalf, very smart, made his moves, read exactly what they were doing. Sometimes just too much of a coach's son. Like, I want you to just go and be a little, this is New Mexico. Be a little reckless, right? And there was one opportunity he had to have like a really, to kill one of those screens in the backfield. But he waits because he doesn't want to go upfield of his blocker. And, you can hear coaches yelling, don't go upfield of your blocker. But we've also seen Zeke Berry do it and get away with it. We've seen Brandon Hillman get away with it in this game one time. And you get a good play with it. Brandon Hillman came down, hit a guy, came down, hit a guy again. When you see someone trying to move forward and all of a sudden he does not, it's Brandon Hillman. And that was, I don't think we had any surprise from what he was doing out there. They didn't really throw to him, so I didn't get to see anything of that. And then it just kind of came down to the deep backups, right? Because that last drive and the second to last drive, they were throwing a lot of dudes in there. So I got to see Young play. He's going to be a dude, probably small, not going to be using that much this year, but you see the Rod Moore in him. Not really a defensive back, but look like a defensive back is Troy Bowles. Did you notice him at all, or did you
No, I didn't catch him live or anything.
So there's a play where it's another one of those screens, and like you see the defender who's in the slot, who you assume is a nickel, races in there and makes the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. And it's like, wow, he closed that gap really fast. So I go because I thought it was number 19. And for some reason, it looked like 19. I was like, who the hell is 19 on defense? Because it's Rod Moore, right? So then I'm like, wait a minute, Rod Moore wasn't playing. So I go on there, and 18 is Troy Bowles, who's a linebacker. And I go back and watch the play again. I'm like, no, that's someone moving like a defensive back. That is how a safety moves. There is no... He's outside of the linebacker distribution, right? Like if you're trying to, how is the safety move? How does the linebacker move? He is outside of that, and I see it. So like we were talking about Rolder already getting passed by Sullivan possibly. Bowles has a major role in this team. I think I would love to see him on third downs. I'd love to see him kind of giving Hausman some time to sit and it's hard to get Hausman off the field because he's the dot, but. Yep. Maybe have him in for Barham or have Barham play edge instead of TJ Guy a couple times. I love Guy, but just in that pass rush role. And then one more pass rusher is Nate Marshall, and I'm sure you saw that.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to see it against a tackle who's not 6'1", but the way he can jump to left and then jump to the right and just set you up that talent is there, and he's big. And then he fixed a problem. Trey Williams overrushes on one play, and he gets outside, and you think there's going to be a scramble lane. Nate Marshall sees it, gets to the other side of his blocker, and that was against a guard, and he had so much length against him that I think that there's not a whole lot of guards who are going to be able to do that. Maybe an offensive tackle, an NFL tackle will have the length to prevent him from crossing him up like that, but he just got across really quickly, and all of a sudden it wasn't there, and Lane had to go down. So, yeah, man, these young guys, and, that's kind of what I'm looking for with this game, right? We're not learning that much about Oklahoma. But these young guys, man, by 2027, this team is going to be good. Yeah, any other questions for me? I turned the music on.
I think that covers it, yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks, everybody, for putting up with us. Sorry for Brian missing this one. Should have told you at the top because this was scheduled ahead of time, but... Anyway, let's go beat Oklahoma.
vodka, singing this crazy song.
Boris is a mayor and a land surveyor with plans of his own. He hates a Ruska, he hates a vodka, banned it from his home. He hates a Ruska, vodka, he never drank a single drop. He hates a Ruska, vodka, this poison he swears.